Everyone, this is Gail Estella. I've gone from being a victim to a victor and now an advocate against domestic violence. And I would like to welcome you to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And for the whole month of October, I will be bringing 4 series of different stories from different guests on how they survived domestic abuse. And I'm so excited today because my guest that I'm getting ready to interview, I met you at the Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau.
Yes, ma'am.
In Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was maybe 20 women in there.
Yeah.
And 2 men. And Jeremiah came the next day.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be the only guy, so.
And there was another guy in there. And it was so enlightening to see another male. So my guest is Mr. Jason, actually.
Jason
Accashian. And I've been studying and practicing this all day, and I messed it up. But Jason, we got to start over. This is the last one.
So I'm going to tell you, you did great. Right, you messed it up, but you used it, and then you just stopped using it.
Tried to start over again. Okay, this is our last
time.
Jason. No, I got to give you your last name.
This is how I remember it. A worthy occasion.
Occasion. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't. Occasion. Okay, this is the last one.
Right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail Estella. I've gone from being a victim to a victor and now an advocate against domestic violence. And I would like to welcome you to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. October is Domestic Violence Month. So for the month of October, I will be bringing 4 series of different stories by different guests, sharing their stories on how they survived domestic abuse. And my guest with me today is Mr. Jason Accashian. I met you at the Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau. And when I was late getting there,
I remember.
And when I walked in, I saw this handsome man, excuse me, Kelly, but I saw this handsome man sitting across from me, and there was another handsome young man sitting beside me. And out of maybe 25, 30 people, it was only 2 men in there.
Yep.
And one of them were you. So tell us about yourself.
I'm Jason. I've got 3 kids, 2 boys and a daughter. Been in North Carolina, I don't know, 25 years, something like that, 30 years. Have a beautiful lady now, and we're planning our path. Where we're going to go, because no more. All the kids are graduated, so. We're kind of free. See what we're going to do from here.
See what you're going to do from here.
Yeah.
So, how are you feeling today?
I feel good.
You feel good?
I feel good.
And as I said, out of 25 or 30 people, there were only 2 men in the class. Mm-hmm. What prompted you to agree to be a part of this discussion on today?
Well, it's taken me 16 years to come out and speak on my abuse. And I remember watching you walk in and at the Speakers Bureau and something about your energy, I just knew. I'm like, we're going to have something. So I'm glad to be here with you today. It was just, I think at the end of the day, I wanted to step up and be a voice for my kids. They never went to any counseling, but they witnessed a lot of things that they are suppressing. So it was just laid on me, and then I finally just got the courage to sign up for the class. And from the day I signed up, I made it a point to bring them along on my journey, whether it was, whether they could be here or whether they heard, the stories or the experiences. I wanted them to at least have to acknowledge it, even if they were acknowledging it through me. Just something to where they didn't forget. So
I like the word acknowledge.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're in denial. We as the victims, because I too am a victim, we as the victim, And we were talking about earlier that domestic abuse affects everyone around us. And a lot of times we can go into denial. And I think a lot of times it's a coping mechanism. It's a place of hiding, protection. So for you to use the word acknowledge, I think this is good. So when we think about or talk about domestic abuse, what were some of the early signs that you noticed in your relationship?
Probably isolating me from my family. So all of my family is out of state, mainly Virginia, and so it wasn't easy to get together. I couldn't just run right down the road, and see someone. So I think it was that isolation. I went about 2 years without even speaking to my mom, and those 2 years they seemed like days. Just because of the, you're just in this kind of like this blur, and time just goes so fast. And once the isolation started, that's when you were kind of in that trap. Now you had nowhere to go. They knew you didn't have anywhere to go. So that's when they started kind of testing, this is what I'm gonna call him today, and I'm gonna put him down, and knowing my history with not having the greatest of relationship with my dad, he wasn't really around. She knew that I was very determined to be a present father, and so with so much of that being put on my shoulders by myself, she knew that. Every time, you're worthless. You're not. You don't need to be here. Your kids. It started to kind of. She knew that was a weak button, a weak spot, and so if you picked at it long enough, it just became this deep wound that even 16 years removed is still there.
Yeah, because you used the word isolation, and my guest before you, last week's guest. She used the word isolation. I can remember being isolated. I can remember my abuser. He would say, let's just move to somewhere far away like Seattle, Washington. You know how far Seattle, Washington is. Or we could go to Oregon and we could just be in our own little unit. And initially, I thought, oh, he just wants me to be with him, just the two of us. How cool would that be? But then I grew to learn that the further that he could take me away from my family and friends, the more control that he could have over me, and the more control he did have over me. And my family lived, I was in Charlotte at the time, and my family lived right in Rock Hill. In Columbia. But it got to the point that if I went to Columbia, he had to go to Columbia.
Yeah.
If he was working, I couldn't go to Columbia. I had to wait on him. So it was always, we just always had to be together. And my previous guest from last week, she also talked about the name calling and using the kids and telling the kids that your mother doesn't love you. You're not a good mother. And correct me if I'm wrong. So what I'm saying is the fact that you didn't have a good what I'm asking, that you didn't have a good relationship with your father. So you were determined at just about any cost.
Correct.
To be there for your kids.
Absolutely. I knew early on that when I did have kids, and I wasn't ready, when I did, if we all ever are, but early on, I just knew that I wanted to be there. I wanted them to look up from whatever event they were in and see me, and that's where I was determined. And so, with that mindset, trying to break the mold and just be, a father, in a world where a lot of people don't have that blessing. It was very important to me, and so of course that's what was what they targeted. They target that spot that means the most to you, and before long it means nothing. So
And it's so interesting that you said that breaking the mold, but then by breaking the mold, a new mold was being created with the abuse. Was this, I would assume, was it your wife, or can you say?
Yeah, it was my kid's mom.
Yeah, okay, your kid's mom. So before, did you ignore any signs? Because I always like to ask that question, because I know I ignored a lot of signs. Did you ignore any signs?
I don't even really know if I ignored them or if they were just so subtle that before I knew it, I was almost like, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. You know, it was, you know, it was words, and then the words got more violent and more personal and more aggressive, and they became physical. And so, but by that point in time, you had been demoralized emotionally, and really, you were just in survival mode. So when the physical abuse started, that's when it almost like that's when it became real. Like, I don't remember a whole lot prior to that, because once the physical abuse started, that's when I entered that.
Yes.
Where am I at? You know, like this is nothing. You know, where this is nothing close to what I envisioned, and nothing close to what was. So where am I at, and how did I get here is really where you get to.
Because usually the physical is the last. You know, we go through the isolation, we go through the emotional, we go through the psychological, we go through the verbal. And I think it's pretty much like a stepping stone. Okay, I could push this button a little bit.
Test those limits.
I could step here, step a little bit more, step. Okay, now let me try a shove, let me try a push. And like you said, once you're here, I know for me, the very first time the physical happened, I just didn't want it to happen again. Because I didn't know a whole lot. I didn't know about the signs. I didn't know about the phases. I didn't know the symptoms. I didn't know anything. I just thought physical. Yeah. So when the physical happened, I tried to fight back, because I'm a girl dad. I mean, you know, my father, sergeant in the Army. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and he always taught us to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I was the one who had to protect my sister. So I knew how to fight. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to fight you back. But I wasn't strong enough. And women, we're not strong enough to fight a man back. That's not what we're here for. That's not what God put us here to do, is to, you know, try to fight a man. And the more I tried to fight back, the more intense it became. So I began to not fight back anymore, and I just learned how to endure it, or how to skip over it, or how to recognize the triggers. Can you remember any triggers?
There were just good days and bad days. Sundays were normally the worst. So a lot of times, you know, I would encourage her to go shopping, get out of the house, whatever. And that worked. But it gave me and the kids time to just kind of breathe. Not have to walk around on those eggshells, because you just never knew. You never knew day to day, minute to minute, how what you said would react. It was this maze, this daily maze that you had to navigate, and you know, some days you'd come out unscathed, and then some days you wouldn't.
So how was it waking up in the morning? You look over at the person, and you're trying to determine, is this going to be a good day, or is this going to be a bad day? Do I need to, or can I be like, ah?
You just had to be. I just tried to focus on my kids. You know, I'd get up in the morning. I love to cook, so I'd get up in the morning, make breakfast for them before school. Pack their lunches, I was always trying to stay on top of housework. I just felt like everything that I could do to take off of her shoulders, then she would have less to complain about. I don't have to clean the house. I don't have to, cook. So I really just tried to take on every role that I could. There was a period of time when she was going back to school, which was great because she was out of the house a lot, and it was really, I really had some of my best memories with my kids during those times because we just kind of had to find things to do, and we just had it was just good. It was good, fun time that didn't have this cloud over it, this kind of uncertainty, and but yeah, you just wake up and you just try to just do whatever you could to don't poke the bear.
Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear.
bear.
So you talk about your kids a lot with a lot of admiration. The abuse, did it happen publicly, privately, or both?
Mainly privately. There was a level of that had to be maintained publicly to kind of shield off any questions
Or make her look a certain way.
Exactly. So it was mainly privately, but you knew. You always knew that if you said something wrong or you'd catch that look, and the back of your mind, you're just like, all right, where is this going to lead to? But most of it was private.
So during this time, what were your coping mechanisms? I know you said that you cleaned and you tried to do as much as you could, the household chores, to take or alleviate anything off of her. So what other ways did you cope?
So I had an extremely unhealthy lifestyle. I was about 300 pounds.
Where are you?
Yeah, I've lost about 120 pounds.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Drinking, drugs, I'd smoke, whatever, unhealthy eating, just anything to, numb things for a little bit, anything to give myself, just a little bit of happiness. And if that meant, an extra cookie, then it was an extra cookie, and because there was so much isolation, trying to go to the gym. I remember when I first decided to start working out towards the end of our relationship, it upset her tremendously because now I'm working on myself and I'm trying, and that just sent things to a whole new level. But I think it was just an overall unhealthy mindset and an unhealthy lifestyle.
Okay. So the things that you named, your coping mechanisms, were some of mine. Alcohol, but not a lot of alcohol as much as the drugs. Eating, mine was the sweets, but I think the drugs overcompensated from the food that I didn't gain a whole lot of weight. But I wasn't able to look at myself in the mirror. Were you able to look at yourself in the mirror?
I've told people this story a lot. There were years when to me a mirror it just didn't exist. It wasn't because, granted, I didn't like the way that I looked, but it was because when I would look in the mirror, I knew, I could see the pain and the sadness and then just the willingness. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I was just struggling to survive. But I covered that up by being that happy clown. I was the jokester. I was always, lighthearted. You would never be able to tell by seeing me that every night when I'd laid in bed, I had to just fight just checking out of here. It was like so it was. It is what it is.
Yeah,
we're here.
Yeah, and I worked in a salon. I like to give this scenario. I worked in a salon, And the salon, the front of my salon chair was a row of mirrors. And behind was a row of mirrors. And for some way or some reason, somehow, I was able to elude looking in those mirrors.
Yep.
I would style my clients' hair and I would turn them around and allow them to look at themselves, but my eyes would divert down, they were over somehow. But I looked good on the outside because I always wore makeup. And it was one of his requirements to always have my hair done and to always dress a certain way. I've always liked clothes anyway. But I always would look at women that didn't wear makeup and wonder, how do they not wear makeup? How do they like looking at themselves without makeup?
Yeah.
And I didn't give people eye contact because I knew if you looked at me in my eyes, you would see about myself what I felt about myself: ugly, not worthy of.
I to this day, I still have a little bit of an issue, but I've found that people that I've shared the same trauma with, I don't know, I'm able to look you in the eyes a little more than I am the average person because we share that scar, and I'm not ashamed for you to look into my eyes because I'm looking into your eyes and seeing the same thing that I'm feeling. So I noticed that in the class, like everybody, it was refreshing because I didn't feel like I had to shy away from that. That awkward moment when you're talking to somebody that doesn't have that pain. Where do I look while I'm talking to them? You know.
And then it's so interesting that you said the class, because a lot of people said after that first day that it was draining. They went home and it was draining.
It was.
And you looked at all these people when they came in and you didn't know anyone's story. But once we shared our stories, we saw that past pain.
You didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
You didn't feel alone.
Yeah, you saw the metamorphosis take over, but it was like, that's me too. I felt that way too, or this might have been a trigger. And I know for me, some people said that the class triggered them. And it didn't trigger me because it's been 33 years since I was in, my abusive relationship. But it brought back so much remembrance.
It did.
Of what I went through.
I left it. It gave me a different view of those years. It's a survival story now. It's like, I used to look at it in a certain way, and now I look at it as, man, I can get through anything. I was deathly sick. I was getting whooped on. It was like all of these things, and to be where I am now, it just shows that I'm not a super overly religious person. I battle my own spiritual battles as well. But if it was not for God, I would not be here. And the fact that God, whatever you want to call him or her, the fact that they took so much abuse from me, because I would just scream, and cuss and this cannot be what if this is it, man, just check me out now, So the journey that we go through when we get to this point, and you look back and you're just like, man, I can do anything.
You can do anything.
I can do anything.
So let's talk about self-esteem. Because I interviewed 2 psychologists, and they said not only does the victim have a low self-esteem, but the abuser does as well. How was your self-esteem at this time for her to even feel that she could get away with it. And I know you made mention about your father, so she knew that was a sensitive area for you.
So my story is basically my dad left when I was young, and didn't have a full-time relationship with him a lot. And so there were, through counseling, I had to realize that I had some abandonment issues. I was abandoned by my dad, per se, I guess. And so she knew that. And so when it came to self-esteem, I was always wanting to make sure that that you were proud of me. Like, did I do
affirmations?
Yeah, exactly. Did I live up to your standards of being good today? And so I battled it then, and I battle it now. And granted, now, thanks to counseling and the beautiful, supportive woman that I have with me, there's really the and honestly, being here with you, I feel like I've conquered all of the self-esteem issues that I can within myself. I do not believe that I'm a worthless human being. But the fact that I mean something to someone that's not in my direct circle, that's something that I have difficulty with. I left. Coming out of the domestic violence class, there were so many people that shared the same scars. But there were so many people that seemed like my story meant something to them. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just some dude that, had a life. And that was very difficult for me to understand, comprehend, because I'm like, I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. I'm a somebody in my world, my family, my parents, but I'm a nobody to you or to these people out here, and to become a somebody to them. It actually helps break down that last wall of self-esteem that I battle.
And I think today people want to see transparency. People want to see people that are real, authentic. And I remember in class, because a lot of men don't share their emotions. My producer and I, we talk about this a lot. A lot of men don't share their emotions because they don't want to seem, for a better word, weak, not strong.
That's right.
But we as women, when we see a man sharing his emotions, expressing his emotions, that's strength to me. Because a lot of men can't do it. And they're doing themselves such a disjustice of being authentic or allowing themselves to be truly, truly loved. Because if you show me all of you, I can learn how to love all of you.
There's a quote, and I read it in class to one of the boys in there, and I don't remember it, word for word, but it basically says that there's no reason to see crying as a weakness when since birth it's been a sign that you're alive.
Yes, you're alive.
And I'm good until I have to really dig into what my kids witnessed, what my kids had to go through. That's when it gets to me. Other than that, I'm good. But I do hold some guilt for the fact that I was not able to protect them like a man should, like a father should. They're my babies, and I should have protected them from not only what they had to go through, but even what they saw, what they heard. I wasn't perfect. The only way I could fight back was through words. And that's not a way for a man to be around his kids either.
One of my guests, she said that she didn't retaliate, or she didn't make a lot of moves or actions because of fear, and that she saw her son being hit by his father. And as a mother, she wanted to intervene, but she couldn't because she was so fearful of what her husband may do to her. So she had to sit back and watch her son go through this. So you said that your kids didn't go through counseling.
They did not.
They didn't. So how are they doing today?
So my oldest does not have the greatest relationship with his mom. I encourage him every chance I get. But he was the oldest. He saw the most. He looks a lot like me. Sorry, Jake. So, enjoy that hair while you got it now, buddy. She would say things to me like, you're worthless, and then she'd look at him and say, you're just like your dad. So they're, and then my youngest boy and my daughter, they each kind of got into this phase where they were like the golden child. And it was kind of a running joke, that, my youngest boy, he was the golden child for a few years. And then when my daughter came up, she was the golden child. Jacob never got to be the golden child.
Wow.
And so it left some scars that he really needs to deal with. He also saw me, he was a part of a really dark time when I was on suicide's doorstep. So unfortunately, he was around during that, and so he's brought that up a few times that I've had to kind of put him in check and go, man, you got to get out of that mindset. My youngest son, he has a good relationship with his mom. My daughter has a good relationship with his mom. I believe everybody should go to counseling. Yes. It's kind of like the dentist. You go every couple of months for at least a soul cleansing. I wish they would go, but they're adults now.
So how are their relationship with you?
My boys' relationship has always been great. Always been great. My daughter, our relationship was really, really good until the separation. When the separation happened, that's when the chipping away on her and my relationship started. And it hit a rock bottom. And as a father who wanted to be there with no self-esteem, low self-esteem, I took an emotional beating for several years. And then it was through counseling that I finally was just like, you know what? I am teaching her how I'm going to allow someone to treat me.
Right.
And I decided, okay, we've got to set some boundaries here. And I continued to be the father that I wanted to be. I was present, but I didn't stick around because every time I stuck around, we were ignored or whatever. But here recently, she's asked me to stick around after games, and it has just filled my heart with joy. And she's an hour away, so even sticking around, it even pushed my time. It's past my bedtime, girl. So, but I'm happy to stick around and give her a hug, and just feeling like we've hit that rock bottom, and now we're healing together. I'm learning kind of how she wants me to interact with her, and it goes both ways. And so that's been the blessing of 2024 is the building back of my relationship with my daughter, because I have missed her. I really have.
Give time.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we're going to circle back with the substance abuse. How long have you been sober, or how long have you been sober from substance abuse? So
I don't. I rarely will have a drink from time to time. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. We seem to collect bourbon. We have this bourbon wall. But if you looked at it, you'd think we drink all the time, but half the bottles ain't even been opened. We just like them, they just we figure, zombie apocalypse, so everybody can come to our house, I guess. But it's just not something that that I really lean on. It's just not really a part of the lifestyle anymore.
So, because when you think about taking care of our temples holistically, because you've kept your weight off, and you say you're not smoking or drinking, all of those things take esteem. All of those things take feeling good about yourself enough to maintain, because it can be so easy to allow the weight to come back on. Exactly. It could be so easy, or it could be a certain day that you're not feeling good and you revert back to your old habits. So I think when we take care of our temples holistically, that also makes us feel better about myself. Because there's one thing I always tell myself: I want to do something once a day to make myself proud of myself. Because when I was leaving, I moved to Aiken, and I had been in Rock Hill for 35 years, 36 years. And people, they started sending me text messages. They started sending me messages through Messenger. They sent me videos. Miss Gail, I remember when you did my hair. Miss Gail, I remember this. You don't know when you said this, when you did this. And one night, I just lied on the couch, and I cried. And I said, God, this is how people see me. And I thanked him for, I can't say that I can see myself the same way 100%, but maybe 92, 93%. I can see what other people see in me now.
Yeah.
And that's just giving God time, being transparent, being authentic.
I don't think any of us, where we are now, and forgive me if I overstep.
No, go ahead.
But I don't think we would change the journey.
No.
I mean, it's my sister asked me one day, if I could go back and change it all, would I? And no. Because what if what I had to go through was put on someone's shoulders that wasn't strong enough to get through it? And in it, you don't see that. But looking back, it is an absolute miracle. I tell my oldest son all the time, I wasn't ready for him. Mm-hmm. So when I found out that he was coming in, I was like, I don't want this kid, man. Like, I don't even know if I want to marry this person. So I tell him all the time, the kid that I didn't want is the kid that saved my life. And I should not be here. There were so many things going on in such a short period of time that I prayed daily. I just let me just not wake up in the morning. I'm good, and I just could never bring myself to take that final step. I got close, but I kept thinking about my kids, man, my kids. Mm-hmm. And so, but what if our journey was put on us because he knew we could carry it?
And I believe that.
And so that's just kind of where I think we get to. Mm-hmm. We let go. I remember just one day I just woke up and I said, yeah, I got to let go of the hatred that I have for my abuser. It's why? If she's not going to carry it, why am I going to carry it? And it's allowed me to pick up a lot of other things that I didn't have room for.
Because of what you were holding on to. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back? When did you decide, regardless of the kids?
Now we're going to get emotional.
Yeah. So, what was it that you said, I got to walk away? Or let me go back one further. Because when we think about men and the physicality, you're the stronger sex. Did you ever defend yourself?
You can't.
You never.
You can't. I told her mom, who by profession should have been legally bound to say something. I told her mom, And she knew it was happening. And she was just like, oh, well, gotta understand that's who she is or whatever, you
hear
know.
that a lot.
And she knew that I couldn't retaliate. I remember one time I balled my fist up and she saw it. And she goes, go ahead, you'll be under the jail. And I thought to myself, I'm trapped here. You can't, you are in a place where you are almost like Play-Doh. That person can shape you, mold you, do whatever they want, throw you against the wall, whatever they want to do, poke holes in you. At the end of the day, they're going to put you back up and shove you right back in that container. There's nothing you can do about it.
And then if the law enforcement, if they do get involved, they're not going to believe you, the victim, being a male.
No, and
they're going to believe her.
Exactly, and that is one of the things that I'm really breaking out of my kind of comfort zone. And the last week or so, I've really been reaching out to a lot of law enforcement in the area, trying to just meet with anyone. And of course, no one's calling me back, which is kind of shocking, but not at the same time. But I want to reach out to law enforcement and find out, how do you handle, one, the interaction when you go out to a domestic violence situation, but two, if and when you do ever have a man show up, are you kind of pushing him off? Like come on, man, what are you talking about? Even after, and I'm sure you're. She's about to get into the next question. We'll let that be the next question because I'm about to get into what you're about to ask.
Okay, and so the next one was, well, we're going to go back. What caused you to walk away?
So what caused me to walk away was I had been sick for about 2 years. No one knew why. I was this medical mystery. We found out later it was carbon monoxide poisoning at my workplace. And I had developed some lesions on my brain. I would stutter. I had difficulty with motor skills. For 2 years, I was just a medical mystery that could barely function. And she used those deficits against me. And so reason and when did I leaving? And I didn't even leave. It was a Sunday. And she had left the house, and we did some chores. When she came home, we were watching TV, and one of my kids were sitting in my lap. Actually, two of them were, my youngest son and my daughter. And she asked who folded the towels wrong. And about that time, I just punched her in the face. And I looked up, and my son was probably 6. He was pushing his mom off of me, saying, "Don't hit my daddy." And the next day, I had, at the time I was going through physical therapy, cognitive speech and physical. And it just so happened to be the next day, and sat in speech therapy, and she said, "Well, how was your weekend?" And I just started crying. And so they came in, and that's when I finally told someone, and they sent me over to the battered women's shelter, and that's when I realized that there were no outlets for me. There was nowhere for me to go. I had to report my abuse, but then I had to go home to my abuser. And they sent social services out, found her to need anger management. Once they told her she needed anger management, within a couple days she had packed up and left. They never made her do the anger management classes. She got full custody. It was kind of a crazy ride there, because again, nobody, even though they came in and they interviewed the kids at school, and social services came in, and all this. And they said, yes, there's grounds here. We have proof through statements that she is being abusive. It was nothing was ever enforced. I was still victimized, vilified,
Wow.
and I didn't see my kids much at all for probably 6 months after she left. I saw them just sporadically. But as crazy as it sounds, I don't think I had it in me to leave. And I think that whoever was watching out over me knew that, and knew that it had to come from an outside source, and it kind of pushed her out that door, and it was the blessing that I needed.
Was that the last time? Did you ever go back?
No, ma'am. She moved out, came back a few times. It was almost like every time she moved out and got her own place. I got a settlement for the workers' comp, which she took some of that, which was fine. It was like, yeah, get out of here. But it was almost like that abuse. She still had to feed off of that, and since I wasn't in the house, she couldn't. Mm-hmm. So she would take a bunch of stuff. I would go out and buy and put stuff back together, and then she'd come back in and take more. So she came back to the house about 3 different times and kind of just messed with the energy, took stuff. Like, it was always like just keeping that claw, that grasp. And then after the 3rd time, I finally just said, there's nothing else in here that you need. Wow. At that point in time, I'd had enough.
Yes.
You're not here anymore to beat me, so I got a little backbone now. Like, if you need anything else, you let me. I'll leave it on the front porch.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Wow. And how long has that been?
Wow. It's about probably I'm trying to do the math here. Yeah, probably like 14 years. Yeah. No, take that back. It's probably been about 10. 10. Yeah, 10, 12, somewhere around in there. And never gone back. And you still have to go to the games that the kids are at. You have to see them. And that was always kind of like, you could just feel the anxiety and you just triggered. I never really knew what triggered meant, but you'd leave those games and you just felt like you couldn't breathe. And so then we just I started to realize, you know what, we got to go into I got to do what I got to do to try to make this a little better for the kids. So we'd have small interactions, but keep our distance. And now it's gotten to the point where I have a relationship with her that when I do see them out at games, they have a little boy. She has a little boy now, and we laugh and joke and say hey, but that's about it. Hey, I'm cordial, I'm friendly. It is what it is. But that anxiety, that anger, it's gone. And I think that once I dropped that, it just allowed me to my energy now going into that interaction is better, which hopefully counterbalances any negativity coming from her side.
So how important is forgiveness?
I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have gone to the class if I hadn't gotten rid of that anger and just forgiven her. And I don't even know if it's just forgiving her, it's more forgiving myself.
That was going to be my next question.
Forgiving myself for allowing it to happen, for not calling it out and stopping it sooner, for not having the courage to leave, just for allowing my kids to see their father be the weakest person that they knew for years. And it's funny. There was a period of time there where I look and I think, man, those were the worst couple of years of my life. But then you talk to my kids and they're like, those were the greatest years ever. And it's just kind of funny how I felt so weak during that time, but they didn't see that weakness. They saw great times.
And so when you said your kids seeing their father being the weakest person they knew, maybe they saw their father being strong because you endured it for them. You didn't break up. You didn't want the household to break up. Now we know that we should walk away. That it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for the kids. But I don't like using the word weak, because sometimes it's a state where we are that we just don't feel that we can do any better, that we don't deserve any better. So I think instead of weak, maybe the mindset, the lower self-esteem, the confidence, those things are lacking. But if you were weak, you wouldn't have been able to endure it. If you were weak,
Looking
you
back,
would have defended yourself. You were retaliated. You would have hit her. You
Yeah.
know, it could have gone a lot of different ways.
If it wasn't for my upbringing, my mom raised me. I'm a mama's boy. For the first couple of years, my grandparents pretty much, were there to help my mom. So I had this old school mentality, this old school vibe, this old school love, where I saw how this is how you treat a partner. This is how you treat, your child or your grandchild. And so coming into that, it was like, it wasn't in me. I'm gonna open your car door for you kind of guy, not a punch you guy. I'm not that guy. So I think it was because of all of that. It just was never, like I said, I just remember the one time. And I think that's when I had gotten to that point where
tired.
I'm just tired now.
And we think about when we've gone through those situations, and you think about the person, because a lot of times we're better off than they are. We're happier than they are. And it may look like they've gone on, it may look like they're doing good, but unless they've gotten some type of higher power, sought some type of counseling, did the work on themselves, they're still that same miserable person.
We say this a lot, that hurt people hurt people. And that's why I had to forgive and drop that anger, because my fuse was just getting shorter and shorter by the day, because I was just filled with just this rage that I didn't know how to deal with. And so I had to stop being hurt so that I would stop hurting other people.
This has been good. So how your kids that go through counseling, did this affect them in school any type of way? Because I want to talk to the parent that their children are experiencing domestic abuse. I don't think so. They put on the facade like we all did. My oldest talked about it a lot more. He talked with his best friend's mom about it a few times, which was I was good to hear. He was getting it out a little bit. It never really affected my kids. They all did very well in school. They were my boys are about as gentle as you could ask for from. And granted, they've battled each other, and they're not afraid to stand up, but they're just gentle souls. And my daughter, she's battling dyslexia, but she ended up getting great grades in school and got a fantastic scholarship, academic scholarship for college, which is, I was terrible in school, so very blessed to her, So they did well. And we're going to begin to wrap up. You said that you're in a relationship with a great person.
I am.
How long did you give yourself? How much time of healing did you give yourself before you entered a new relationship?
I was in and out of relationships for probably about 6 years or so in between, and looking back, they weren't healthy either. I even almost took on a little bit of a controlling type.
It happens,
but I I think it was just being able to bear my soul to this person, and not only, I think the person you're bearing it to, they have to have an aura about them that is receptive. And her aura, I always felt, we have this running joke where our relationship is not always 100, you're not always 50-50. Some days you got 20%. And you have to be able to go to that person and go, look, I got 20% today. Okay, I'm gonna pick up your third. I got you.
I got the 80.
And being able to, and I've done this recently. I've said, look, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I've been trying to pull my percentage together, but I got 30. And just being able to go and knowing that not only she will go to battle with me, but she encouraged the battle that I was fighting on my own internally. Telling me, you're a great man, you're a strong man, like you're a good father, to the point where now the mirror is not my enemy anymore. The mirror is my friend. I look at it now and I think,
ooh, I look good today.
Yeah, I look good today, like let me, and so just someone that encourages not only that, but encourages the spiritual growth, the spiritual journey that I'm on, just trying to reconnect, telling me all the time, don't blame earthly situations and earthly pain for the Father. Like, I can't look at my kids and hold them to a different set of standards than my God does. And my God is going to walk with me. I've got to look at it as a parent, child. I have to break it down to that for me to really get back to where I don't have that confusion and that animosity and that, where were you? Looking at it like, man, realizing you were always there. You were always, I didn't know it. I didn't know it. I didn't know it, but you were always there. You kept me from doing something that was final. And then look at us now.
Look at us now. And when we think about God, when I think about God from the things that I've been through, I had to go through it. It was one level, and he delivered me from one thing, then he delivered me from another. And then my daughter got sick, and I knew him. I had a true relationship with him. He healed her, and then she passed. And so with her passing, if I had not gone through everything that I had gone through, I wouldn't have been able to survive.
You wouldn't have been strong
because
enough.
of the relationship that I had with her and the love that I felt for her. Because I had gone through so many things, and in my life I felt that she was the one thing that I got right.
Exactly.
And God, you gonna allow her to leave? And this is the one thing that I got right, and you're going to take her after healing her? And so if I had not those layers of circumstances and situations.
It's like going to the gym. You get stronger every day, stronger every day. And then, it's 1%, get 1% better every day. And look at you. Look at you.
And so all of everything brings us to a point to this. A man that has survived domestic abuse, that was the victim. Now he's thriving in a wonderful relationship. Your kids are doing well. Your relationship with your daughter is getting better.
Yeah.
So what would you say, look in the camera, what would you say to the men, or talk to the men, because there are going to be some women that are listening that are the abusers. But what would you say to the man that's in an abusive relationship? What would you say to him?
Society has programmed men to to be a robot. You go to work, you provide for your family, you show no emotion. Even if you did, no one cares. That's kind of this manly mindset that we're kind of in a society now. The trauma that abusers go through is bad enough. But for men, statistically speaking, suicide rates are much higher. PTSD is much higher because of we're supposed to be the man, we're supposed to be the leader, the leader of the home, the strong father figure. The toll that it takes on men, and this is taking nothing away from anyone else, but the toll that it takes on men is brutal because we don't have the resources. Who's going to believe us? You're on an island, and just know that you may not see them, but there are other people on that island with you. They're there. They may be hiding behind trees. They may have their head in the sand, but they're there. And we've got to do a better job as a society with not only acknowledging domestic violence across the board, but especially in male victims, making resources a little more known. Me as a man, I knew I was in an abusive relationship, but you can't go to the to the battered women's shelter. They don't have a bed for you. So just know that you're not alone. Find that one thing that you can hold tight to and keep you grounded, keep you focused on something other than how terrible of a person you feel. That would probably be all I could say is, mine was my kids. You got to find something, because if you can't find something, then you're going to eventually drown.
Wow, that's good. So what does your future look like for you?
I've started my own business. I had thanks to my beautiful lady, she gave me the courage to quit my job a few years ago to start my business. It's been up and down, but it's been a blessing. We get to spend a ton of time together, which is fantastic. Just trying to do anything I can with this training, anything I can with this platform, anything I can. I'm reaching out to everybody that I know. It's taken me 16 years to get here, but we're here now, so let's go. Let's go.
Are you on social media?
I need to get better, which is why I'm hoping to tag along with someone over here.
So do you have a social media platform?
I just have Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, that's good. So tell the audience how to find you. If there is a male out there that wants to contact you, how can they find you on Facebook or Instagram?
So, can we time this? I don't know. Look it up on what is my, what is the Facebook? Is it little this, little that? What is it? Will you double check that, Facebook? Because it's my business. It's my name and my business, but I'm not sure. I want to make sure that they have the.
Okay, so while she's looking, this is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. What has helped you to survive? I know you said God. Give me two more things that what has helped you to survive.
Family. Family, 100% family. After we separated, even though the relationship with my family had been battered, they were there.
Support.
They came, they helped me kind of put my life back together. Family. And then just kind of figuring out that roadmap of post-abuse life. It kind of consumed me, like, okay, do I want to stay in this area? Do where do I want to go with my life? Where do I want to go with this information, with these lessons that I've learned? And just trying to reconnect just on all levels, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, just trying to get all that back together. So it was, but again, if it wasn't for my family stepping in, all of them are just a blessing.
That's good. That's good.
Jason Accashian on Facebook, and it's got a little this, little that.
Okay.
Instagram is JBASMC.
Okay. So the Instagram is JDASMC. JDASMC. And that's on Instagram. And then Facebook is Jason Accashian, ACCASHIAN. And then it's got my business, little this, little that, attached to it. So yeah, if there's a man out there that needs anything, my email address is also jdasmc@yahoo.com. Please reach out. You don't have to give me your name. You can just send an email. If you're battling, I'll go to battle with you. We'll figure it out.
He'll go to battle with you. How
battle with you.
Powerful. Now that doesn't sound like a weak man.
Doesn't.
You go to battle with them.
Hey,
that's all right.
We're here.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
This has been great.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, and I do want to say that, and I told your producer over here, when you walked in the class, I looked at you, and I was like, that's a beautiful, brave woman right now. Because look, it ain't. We can't. A lot of people can't pull this off, right? But I said that is a beautiful, brave woman. But we locked eyes, and there was some energy, and I was like, this is someone that I'm going to connect with over these next 3 days. And it was. I remember some of the interactions that we had, and you were always just so supportive. And there's just a few people in there that I'll just always carry in my heart that I just felt a connection with. Miss Jarrell, Tasha, Tamika, like everybody. Like it was just like they're just family. They're just family, and I just knew. I knew when you walked in, I was like, "There's something special about this lady." So
thank you.
You're going to battle for people too.
Yes,
so you're a strong woman.
That's my passion. That's my mission. That's my goal.
That's
yes,
good.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Again, this is Gail Estella, and this is Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Please stay tuned to next week's podcast. We're going to have 2 teenagers that have witnessed domestic abuse in the home, and they're going to tell their stories. Now, how brave are they?
Brave.
Yeah.
Brave.
Yes. Everyone have a good night.